Hello YouTube, Master Duel is out, and if you're a new player, either new to Yu-Gi-Oh! Or returning, it can be a bit overwhelming looking at all the different cards and trying to make sure you're spending your gems correctly. I've made this video to provide you with 5 lists that you can follow that are going to be very cheap, great ways that you can, build decks that you can build upon and get into the game. If you like this kind of content, really appreciate a subscription to the channel. I also have a Twitch channel and a Discord, links in the description. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. The first deck I have to showcase today is Pure Zoodiac. Now, Pure Zoodiac is good because it's very simple to play. It has really linear win conditions, but you can also play a ton of staples since it's a very lean and small engine. So as you get more and more cards, you keep playing the game, you can easily switch out some of these cheaper staples with whatever you like, and this deck can grow with you as a player. So the first card I included is 1 copy of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This is because of the pack that you can currently get. I believe it's 700 gems, and you get an Ash Blossom plus 10 packs, which is a great value. Then you're going to play 2 copies of Zoodiac Bunny Blast, 3 copies of Whiptail, 3 copies of Thoroughblade. You can skimp out on Thoroughblade if you're running low on super rare tokens, but all the Zoodiacs can link. They can basically link. They can XYZ into XYZ monster using only 1 material, which is in effect unique to the Zoodiac monsters. So more names is good. Zoodiac Thoroughblade can also discard them to draw a card if you draw too many of them. Next, I chose to play 1 Raigeki and 1 Monster Reborn. These are given to you in the tutorial. 3 copies of Pot of Desires. This is not mandatory, but it is a very good card, and I recommend you prioritize it as you're going to be using this card in a variety of decks. Then we're going to use 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki. Again, not mandatory, but a very good super rare that searches any of your Zoodiac monsters. We're going to be playing 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon. You can get this in the Synchro structure deck at the start of the game, or it's just a rare. 2 copies of Book of Moon, 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice. Very good staples used in the metagame today, but just rares in this game. I highly recommend these. Also, on that same line, 3 Torrential Tribute, 3 Compulsory Evacuation Device, and 3 Lost Wind. Just really cheap staples that have very similar effects to more expensive cards. There's really no downside to playing these. They're going to win you games. 1 Zoodiac combo. This will recycle your Zoodiacs. You're going to want to get this out of your deck before you activate Pot of Desires, ideally. But if you've bricked and you have no plays, just use Pot of Desires. It's better to play a card than to play nothing at all. And the 1 copy of Solemn Judgment, which is from a bundle much like Ash Blossom. Good value. Your extra deck is nice because you want to play a lot of the Zoodiac monsters, which Tiger Mortar, Borbo, Hammer Kong, and Chakanine are all very low rarity, so Konami's doing you a solid on this one. You're going to want the 1 ultra rare Zoodiac Dryden. This card's banned in the TCG. It's extremely good, and you're going to use it every game. I included 1 copy of AA Zeus. As you'll notice, this card is also limited. It's extremely powerful going second. You're going to use this to break boards. You attack directly with Borbo, and then stack a bunch of Zeus on top of each other and slap a Zeus on top. It'll give you multiple board wipes in 1 card, so it's well worth the ultra rare tickets. The last 2 cards are not mandatory. Nightmare Phoenix is what I chose. It's a super rare, but this will allow you to destroy problematic back row that's preventing you from playing the game. And then Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops is really easy to summon in Zoodiac since you have tons of XYZ monsters, and you can summon them back from graveyard with Chakanine. And then this card is only affected by monster effects of XYZ monsters. So if your opponent's playing a Synchro or a Pendulum or a Link deck, they might not be able to destroy this card at all. And it has like 4,000 attack. The second deck I have to recommend is Pendulums. Now, Pendulum is given to us in a structure deck, so you'll be able to get many of the ultras and super rares in this deck for only 1,500 gems total. Buying 3 of the structure decks will give you most of what you need. This deck contains 3 Dragon Pulse Magician, 3 Dragon Pit Magician, 1 copy of Tuning Magician, 1 copy of Time Gazer Magician, 3 Wisdom Eye, and 3 Performer Pal Skull Crobat Joker, which is your best normal summon in the deck. You're going to use 2 copies of Harmonizing and 1 copy of Double Iris, 3 Black Fang Magician, and 3 Purple Poison Magician. These are not required to be at 3. You can play anything else in their stead if you don't have all the copies. Then you could play 1 copy of the Supreme King Dragon Darkworm and his buddy, the Supreme King Gate Gate 0. These are really easy scales to access, and then when you scale this up, you can place the other one for free, or if this is normal summoned or special summoned, you can add the Gate 0 to your hand. So pretty useful effects, and these are typically played in Pendulum decks. I chose to include one copy of Performapal Celestial Magician. You could play more of this if you obtain them, but it is an ultra rare and it's not required, so I just threw one in there. And then 3 copies of Oath Dragon Magician. Again, you could play this at 2 if you so chose, and if you did do that, there are a lot of staples in the previous list that you could use to replace. 1 copy of Chronograph and 1 copy of Astrograph. These cards are extremely good. I do recommend you play them. 3 Pen Call, which is just great. This card will get you whatever you need from your deck, and 2 copies of Duelist Alliance to search either the Pen Call or the Star Pendulum Graph. This can also search the Time Pendulum Graph. These cards are part of your bread and butter combo. Star is going to protect your board from targeting, and then Time is going to give you a extremely relevant interruption where you can destroy your opponent's cards and send your opponent's cards. You're going to be using these pretty much every game. I made sure to add 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon because there is a lot of problematic spells and traps in the game that will stop you from playing. So you're going to want to include a card like Mystical Space Typhoon in every one of your decks. For the extra deck, we went with 1 Enlightenment Paladin, which is in the structure deck, and 2 Supreme King Dragon Clearwing. This card is a Raigeki, it's a board wipe, and you can summon it using your tuner, Harmonizing Magician. We went with 3 copies of the Time Star Magician from structure deck, and 2 copies of Supreme King Dragon Dark Rebellion. This card gets over any monster by attacking it. It can just eat its attack points and deal a ton of damage to your opponent. 1 Magician of Hope, which is a Magician Pendulum unique XYZ monster. It's pretty good. You're not going to summon it a whole lot, but it's worth including. And of course, Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. This card is banned in the TCG. I recommend you pick up your copy because it is the best link monster in the game for pendulums. We chose 1 copy of Lanfarincus, which just takes any 2 monsters. The only reason you play this is because it points down, which is very important for pendulum summoning, and you want a 2nd copy of Electrum, but we can't have that. We use 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix to prevent your opponent from stopping you from playing the game with cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance or Imperial Order. This will take care of them with any 2 monsters that you use, any 2 effect monsters. 1 copy of Selene, the queen of the Master Magicians. You don't have to play this card. If you do choose to get it, you can also start adding cards to your deck, like the Endymion cards, like the so it'll special summon any spellcaster from your graveyard. You can use this in collaboration with the Tuning Magician. You could also use Halka-Fibrax, the Needle Fiber, in this deck in order to get more combos. But yeah, you're pretty much going to use this to link climb into either Appaloosa Bow the Goddess or Access Code Talker. You can just choose your favorite. You don't have to play both of these, but they're a pretty good part of a pendulum end board. So as you start, earning more gems, these are cards that you might want to focus on. The 3rd budget deck that I want to bring to your attention is Virtual World. Now, Virtual World is the best deck of the format. In my previous video, you can see the meta variant of Virtual World, but the core of this deck is actually extremely cheap. For this deck, I chose to use Link Apple. Now, this card basically just discards itself to draw a card. You banish a monster randomly from your extra deck, and if it's not a Link monster, you draw a card, and you play no Link monsters. This side effect does not hurt you in Virtual World pretty much in the slightest, because using Nyan Nyan, when this card is banished, you can return any of your banished cards to the deck. So let's say you banish your best card, the True King of All Calamities, you can just put it back with Nyan Nyan as part of your combo. So it doesn't really hurt you, and it helps the consistency of this deck. You can play that 1 copy of Ash Blossom that you get from the special bundle, 2 copies of Nyan Nyan. You can definitely play 3 of this card, but I chose 2 because it's a super rare. 3 copies of My-Hime Lulu. I would recommend 3 of this card. It is your best card. 3 copies of Gigi, 3 copies of Lao Lao, 3 copies of Lily, 3 copies of this guy, I think it's Tao Tao. You don't need to play 3 copies of Tao Tao. It's the worst one, but it's good to have a lot of names because the Virtual Worlds, they are a 2-card combo deck where when you draw 1, then you want to either normal summon it or get a name on the field, and the rest of them target it to special summon the rest of your bodies. So it's important to have a starter, and Tao Tao is a starter because you can normal summon this. If you control no monsters or all your monsters are worms and psychics, you can just normal summon it without tributing. You can also summon from graveyard. This deck also plays 3 Pot of Desires. You see how this is a staple that comes up time and time again in these decks, so it's worth your investment to pick up Pot of Desires. 3 copies of Kowloon, 3 copies of Queen Long, 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, 2 copies of Emergency Teleport. Yeah, this card's a super rare, but it can special summon any of your Psychics, which all your level 3s, from your deck, and it's a great starter, so I recommend it. 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice, one of the best cheap staples in the game, 3 copies of Chuche, and 1 copy of Xuan Wu. For the extra deck, we play 2 copies of Stardust Charge Warrior, and you don't have to play 2 copies of this card. If you do have a card you want to add to your extra deck, you definitely just cut 1 Stardust Charge Warrior, 1 copy of Coral Dragon, which is a super rare, but this card does draw a card when it leaves the field, and it's a Tuner Synchro 6, which is a pretty unique ability, pretty useful. I'd recommend it. 2 copies of Cloud Castle, which get you into your True King of All Calamities, and then 1 copy of Shen Shen. Yes, this is an ultra rare, but it's the namesake of the deck. This card is insane on the field. Any card that's sent from the field to the graveyard is banished instead, which some decks just simply cannot play through. You definitely want to pick up a Shen Shen. 1 copy of Fortune Tune, which is used to go into Zeus. 1 copy of Break Sword, which can be used to destroy problematic cards in the field. You can also use it to go into Zeus. 1 copy of Bamboozling Gossip Shadow. Now, you'll make this card in your combos to prevent yourself from getting Nibiru'd or interrupted while you're trying to form the True King of All Calamities. You can use 2 copies of Jaja. Again, only 1 is required, but it's actually pretty good, and it's a normal, so you just might as well. 1 copy of Downward Magician, not necessary to play, but by playing this, you can use your Fortune Tune or similar to attack, and then overlay this before going into Zeus, so that way your Zeus can activate twice, which is extremely good when you're facing down a negation or other interruption on the board. You'll use 1 copy of Fan, which is the rank 6 that's namesake of the Virtual World deck. A really powerful effect, too. And because it's a Virtual World name, just like the Jaja, when you summon this, you're getting a name on the board, so it does help you combo. And then True King of All Calamities. This card is probably the single-handedly most powerful card in Master Duel. Its effect is insane. This card is banned in the TCG. It's an ultra rare, yes, but if you choose to play Virtual World, I recommend you invest in this. And then the last card is Zeus. Zeus you're going to use in any deck that can XYZ summon. Zeus is the XYZ boss monster. It's an ultra rare, but if you pick it up, every XYZ deck you play is going to use it. The next deck we have is Tri-Brigade. Tri-Brigade is a deck that's still kicking today in the TCG, and it is really good in this format. We're going to use 3 Tri-Brigade Nerval, 3 Tri-Brigade Karis, 2 copies of Kit, that 1 Ash Blossom again, 3 Whiptail, 1 Thoroughblade, 3 Ram for your Zoodiac engine. You can replace the Zoodiac engine with anything. There's a Melfi engine. You can look this one up on YouTube, the Melfi Tri-Brigade deck. That's pretty good. You can use Rescue Cat. You can just throw in a bunch of hand traps, or you can play the Zoodiacs. You can play 3 Tri-Brigade Fractal, which is objectively the best one. The Raigeki and Monster Reborn you get from the campaign. 3 copies of Tenki, which searches your Fractal or your Zoodiacs. 3 copy of Mystical Space Typhoon to deal with problematic spells and traps. 3 Forbidden Chalice, 3 Torrential Tribute, 3 Compulsory Evacuation Device as the interruption suite. We do have the 1 Zoodiac combo. Again, not necessary to play. Don't play this if you're not playing the Zoodiacs. 2 Tri-Brigade Revolt. You can play 3 of this if you like. I like 2 because it can brick a little bit, but when it resolves, man, does this card feel good. For your extra deck, you play a small Zoodiac engine, 1 of each name. You can play 2 Chaka 9, I chose to in this list, and this pretty much just gets you into AA Zeus. You can also use Chaka 9 later to bring back 1 of your Zoodiacs and go into Tri-Brigade Farigit the Barren Blossom. This card, when you activate its effect, it summons pretty much any of your monsters from the hand, which is helpful when you're using Tri-Brigade effects. The Tri-Brigades have a gimmick where they banish monsters from graveyard to cheat out extra deck monsters, link monsters in particular, from your extra deck. Really powerful. And then you can use 1 copy of Bearbroom. You only need 1. This card searches for your Revolt. So, you know, it's really important to put 1 in your extra deck, though. 1 copy of Svelgamir, the Desperate Doom Eagle. This card's really powerful against back row, or against graveyard decks in particular, but you can mostly use it to link climb into Access Code Talker. This is an ultra rare, another staple that you're going to find yourself using in pretty much every deck. Well worth your investment. 1 copy of Rugal, which is pretty much also used to link climb. It's a link 3, and 2 copies of Shurig the Ominous Omen. This is the only investment this deck really requires. It's summoned off of your normal combo, and you can also summon it off of Tri-Brigade Revolt. When it's sent to the graveyard, you can add another card from your deck to your hand, and it's a non-target banish. All right, finally I have a budget Prank Kids deck for you. Prank Kids are really good and linear. They are a normal summon based deck, so you normal summon one of your Prank Kids and you're going to go into your full combo. Thankfully, all of the Prank Kids, Fansies, Dropsies, Lampsies, and Roxies are all normal, so it's going to be extremely cheap to make this deck. You use the Raigeki and the Monster Reborn from the structures and 3 Polymerization to get into your fusion monsters. Again, there's those 3 Pot of Desires that are going to come up time and time again in your deck building. You can play 1 copy of Prank Kids Place. If you acquire more of these, feel free and throw them in. You can also use Terraforming if you want to go that route. 3 copies of Prank Kids Prank, 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, 3 Forbidden Chalice, 3 Pandemonium, which is your in-archetype fusion spell, and then 3 Torrential Tribute, 3 Compulsory Evacuation Device. These can be anything. If you do acquire some awesome cards like Forbidden Droplets or Dark Ruler No More, you can put them in these slots as well. You can also add hand traps to this deck as your leisure. Throw in that Ash Blossom, you know, why not? If you have the Ash Blossom, any hand traps you have can go in here. You can play Crossout Designator. This deck can grow with you, and I have a meta variant in my other video. And the final card is the Prank Kids Plan, which is a nice recycler for your Prank Kids monsters. For the extra deck, we have 1 Prank Kids Rocket Ride, 2 copies of Weather Washer, and then 1 copy of Battle Butler. You can play more of this if you acquire them. If you do, I recommend throwing a Thunder Dragon Fusion and a Predaplant Verte in your deck. 1 copy of Totally Awesome. This is an ultra rare, it's not required, but you can pretty easily summon it, and it is a Omni Negate. So summoning this with 2 copies of Prank Kids Dropsies makes your board just extremely durable, and it recycles cards when it dies. 3 copies of Meow Moo. You don't have to play 3, but this card's limited to 1 in the TCG, and it is extremely good because it turns any of your Prank Kids into full combo. When you normal summon them, they get their effects when they're link summoned, so you just link 1 into Meow Moo, and then you just go off, and you'll see how it happens after a few games. You can play 3 copies of Doodle Doo, which is a very good card. It searches for your spells and traps and allows you to add back cards from your graveyard. Bow Wow Bark is a really good card to set up an interruption on your opponent's turn, summoning guys back, and it gives them a protection effect. And then for generic staples, I chose Nightmare Unicorn and Access Code Talker. You'll go into these a lot, you know, again, Access Code Talker being an extremely generic boss monster. Thank you guys for watching this video, and if there's any new players out there watching this, Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be a bit overwhelming at times, but trust me, it is worth the investment. This is the best game to play, and Master Duel is doing a great job of bringing it to the masses. If you have any questions about these lists, please feel free and drop them in the comments. I'm always happy to help, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Thanks again. If you did like this, I appreciate a subscription to the channel. I hope y'all have a great day.